Who are you learning from? Hi, this is Coach Jim Johnson. Are you learning from the right people? We are all influenced by others. Sometimes we ask for advice, and sometimes we don't. While we can't choose all the information fed to us, we can choose what advice we implement into our lives. Who are you learning from? Do you have an individual growth plan that you're intentional with? I highly recommend you do if you don't. I give you those who I learned from in a method or quote in which I really liked about each one. Number one, Jim Rohn. The late Jim Rohn is probably my all-time favorite personal growth coach. And his great quote is, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And he also said, if you want to be wealthy, study wealth. Number two is also the late great Zig Ziglar. And a quote he said is, you can have anything in your life you want if you help enough people get what they want. Number three is the great Brian Tracy. And I've read a lot of his books as well. And his quote is, your greatest asset is your earning ability. Number four, Tony Robbins, that was mentored by Jim Rohn. And Tony has so many great programs. And he says, your past does not equal your future. And then the great John Maxwell, that I listened to his podcast, read a lot of his books, and he says, people may have heard you, but they feel your attitude. Next up, I'm just going to share some other people I follow and what about them. Number 6 is Patrick Lencioni, and I've read a number of his books and I listened to both of his podcasts. John Gordon, read a number of his books and listened to his podcast. Dean Graziosi, I've listened to his podcast, I've read one of his books, and I watched a lot of his videos. Next up is Donald Miller. And his book, Business Made Simple, is excellent, and he also has a great weekly podcast. Next is Ryan Hawk, that I've read both of his books. He has a great podcast, and he was a guest on our podcast. Next is Ed Mylett. He has an awesome podcast, and I also read his great book, The Power of One More. And then there's Lewis Howes, that has a wonderful The School of Greatness podcast, and I've also read his most recent book. And then the great financial advisor, Dave Ramsey. I listened to his videos, his podcasts, and read a number of his books. Next is Raman Sharma. He has great books, and he also has a very short podcast I listen to every day. And next up is Darren Hardy. And Darren was mentored by the late Jim Rohn. And Darren has what he calls a Darren Daily that I listen to every day, a short podcast. And I also read one of his books. Darren's a really bright guy. And just a bonus, because I'm a sports guy as well, any book that was written about John Wooden, I've probably read it, and I highly recommend it if you're into athletic coaching. And then one other book that really touched me deeply as a coaching book was by the late, great Bill Walsh, the San Francisco 49ers coach. And the book is called The Score, Takes Care of Itself. Who are your favorite personal growth mentors? I'd love to hear from you. And if I can help you as a mentor, reach out at CoachJimJohnson.com. I'm here to help you.